Hi, and welcome back to the Yarn Equals Joy podcast, episode 12. I'm Rachel. I am Rachely Book Girl on Instagram and Rachely on Ravelry and Joan Mag Bags in honor of my mother on Etsy. And I'm just excited to be coming to you. It hasn't been that long. Today is July 23rd. And I think I was last here on Independence Day in the States, which is July 4th. Since then, I've been on a lovely, quick jaunt to Portland, Maine with my sons, and I had never been there before, so it was a real treat to see something completely new and new to all of us, and we loved it and had a great time, and yeah, it was lots and lots of fun, and yes, I did get to pop into the local yarn shop and I will show you what I got. I don't think I have a ton to show you today because it really hasn't been that long, and some of the ongoing whips I haven't really made that much new progress on. But I did resurrect a whip from the purgatory of bags that haven't been opened in a while, and I will show you that. And then I started something really, really new so you can see the fledgling little shape of a new shawl. And then shockingly, I have two FOs. So I'm wearing one, even though in Texas this is a little crazy, but I actually finished it in time to go to Portland because I wanted just a travel wrap that I could put into a bag, and if we went out at night, if it was at all chilly, wrap around me. And I did use it one night, and that was really fun. I've showed it before. I've been working on it on and off for a while, but let me just show you how it came out. It is, per the instructions, one of those shawls that needs to really be blocked aggressively, which I did, except on some of the edges. I think I should have pulled it out even more than I did. As you'll notice, there's sort of this light section in the middle. I think I talked about that in one of the earlier podcasts. That was actually the color that I loved. It was this like light pink with kind of off-white through it, and I thought it was really cool. And when I ordered more, this is Malabrigo Rios worsted. When I ordered it, the same color, obviously a very different dye lot, and it was much purplier and much more solid. But I kind of like the way it plays with the pattern because this is all about texture, and just having that light section in the middle sort of changes the texture, the way it all looks. So it's a weird shape. I'm not sure I'm like all into this asymmetrical triangle, and I made it bigger than it was supposed to be, so my shape is probably different from exactly what the designer Sylvia McFadden intended. But I love it. I love pink, and I had fun wearing it, and I think it's really cool. So yeah, that's it. Salt by Sylvia McFadden and Malabrigo Rios, and really cool. So I don't think my non-knitter friend Kathy watches the podcast, but like big X, if you are watching, turn it off, don't watch it, go away, don't watch it, because I'm going to be visiting her in a little bit. I spoke about this when I started it at the beginning of the summer. I thought I might be visiting two friends, and then one of the trips didn't end up materializing, but this one will happen. And so I had planned to bring a shawl that I've been working on for my friend. And I explained that she's more of a black and gray, or more subtle, less colored person than I am, colorful. And so it was a little crazy because I did not want to just work in black and gray, but I added in this kind of avocado-y green, which I thought would look very sort of classic and neutrally, and it came out really well. I ended up using 4 colors, and I ended up making it bigger, and of course that was probably totally unnecessary. Look how cool the lace section is. I like the sections that have high contrast the best, and so I had changed around with my color selection and added a fourth color when I realized that the shawl really needed more contrast. So as you can see, it just kind of goes on and on and on. I think that you can certainly sort of wear this scarf shape the way I like to wear shawls, like this. You know, there's a lot hanging over, but you could sort of, you know, wrap it up like that. You could also, I was sort of playing around with it because it did come out so long, and I wanted to be able to sort of tell her when I gifted it to her kind of what some of the options were. But I think that because it is so long, you could even double it and sort of wrap it around you like that. I'm going to tell her that one of the things I love about this kind of shawl is that it's perfect for travel. You know, so it can be your sort of blanket cozy thing in the airport or in an airplane, but it can also look really pretty for a night out when you have sort of a white outfit or a black outfit or a gray outfit. You know, it would go with a lot of things. So I'm hoping that she loves it. I think it came out really well. And again, it's on the larger side, but that's something I really like, and it blocked well. I will say I was a little confused about the blocking. So if anybody has comments below, this has happened to me before. It happened with the Dust of Snow shawl, which is that same sort of parallelogram shape. And as I'm laying it out, I get a little confused about where my straight edge is. So in other words, the parallelogram, the ends are slanted on a diagonal. So that's a straight diagonal. But then are the other edges both straight, or is everything sort of coming down at an angle? I'm not explaining this well, but I pinned it and unpinned it and pinned it and unpinned it like 3 times because I don't know, it just didn't feel right. Part of it is that the stripes, which you've been knitting across, are diagonal. And so once I sort of realized that I needed to be looking at these diagonals all the way down, I think it worked, but I think it came out pretty well. Okay, so the Resurrected Whip is in a little bag that I made a while ago. If anybody is interested in seeing these kind of hexagon patchwork bags, they're really a good size for what is inside, which is socks. So this was my first pair. I'm not a huge sock knitter. This is my, excuse the dog barking, this is my one sock was finished of this Hermione's Everyday sock by Erica Luder. I had originally thought these would be for me because it's this really soft peachy pink. It's a primrose color, and I'll tell you. So the Goldfish Memory, by the way, just to go over that again, the green is Knit Style yarn in her Simply Singles and Pretty Poison. The black is Atashmo Light in Viper, and then the gray is Lichen and Lace in Pewter, and the black and white is Hedgehog in Magpie, Skinny Singles. Okay, so the socks, let me see, the socks are in Primrose yarn, the Sophia, which is her MCN, and the colorway is Made You Look. And this is how far I am top down on the second sock. This is one of my little needle cozies, which if anyone's interested, I will pop some more of those back in the shop. They're really fun to have, and I've been using them a lot lately. I love this pattern. It's easily memorizable. It's what I like, which is just sort of serenity knitting, you know, where I can just sort of zone out. And it was great travel knitting. So I think I will make it for one of my sisters, maybe for her birthday, which is not until December, so I don't have any rush, but these will need to get finished, and hopefully I remember how to turn a heel and do all of that, but I think the instructions are pretty good. So that's one. And then the second WIP is also in a bag by me. I love this style of bag. I love that they have snaps, that it has a, this is when it was Oh Joy bags, which has since been renamed Joan Mag bags. They've got the little stitch markers on the end, and they also fold over to have a really nice bucket shape. So I signed up for Helen Stewart's Shawl Society. I think it's Shawl Society 4, and I didn't really do anything. I like a certain look in a shawl, and I wear shawls a lot, and I love knitting them, but little shawlettes and things like that are totally not my style. But I saw this, which I think is the 4th in the collection. It's called the Rock Pooling Shawl, and I just thought it was absolutely stunning. It is made out of 3 skeins of DK, and I went stash diving, and in 2 seconds put my hands, that's one of the advantages of a big stash, put my hands on the 3 colors that I wanted it to be. So the 2 on the ends are both Suburban Stitcher. This is, the yellow is Curry, and let me see what the Evangeline, Curry and Evangeline. And the middle is Farmer's Daughter in her Craggy Tweed DK. And the color of that is Flight of the Crane. And I just love the way there's enough contrast between, each of these, but it will look, a lot softer if these 2 are together, or these 2, or it's much more contrasty if these 2 are together. I just love these colors. So I'll show you my little itty bitty what I have so far. I'm certainly enjoying working on it. This is the right side. So you can see it's just a new baby shawl, and it's gonna be really pretty and squishy, and I think I'm gonna love it. So, and I wanted something new because I was sort of sick of things I was working on. I wanted something new to be kind of able to take with me on my next trip. So I'm really excited about that. So those are 2 of the WIPs that I was going to show, and then I was only going to show you one more, which is an ongoing WIP, which I rarely show, and that is the Northeasterly blanket. And I'm making mine as a baby blanket, not for any baby in particular, just because. And I'm sorry, it has 8 million things still on it. But I'm doing it all in Koigu, and honestly, I think to me, it's just like a work of art. It is, the Koigu yarn is so uniquely dyed, and I bought a lot of little mini skeins of it, and I love it. I love the way it's turning out. So you can see I have a lot of these still to put into little balls. I've just been winding most of them by hand, and they come out to be about that much. And I don't really have any real pattern in terms of the blending of the colors. I'm just trying to sort of, play with color, and which is one of my favorite things to do. And also, be cognizant of having colors sort of spread out, and lights and darks and all of that. I love it. I think it's really cool, and it will be a really squishy, sweet baby blanket. So that's it for the WIPs. Now for Portland. So I was lucky enough to go to a local store in Portland called Knitwit, and they had this lovely bag which came with the purchase. Nice store. They were very helpful. The only negative was it was really hot in there. They really did not have air conditioning, or if they had air conditioning, it was totally insufficient. And I can buy yarn when it's hot outside, but not when I'm hot. Like when I'm hot, it's really hard to buy yarn. If it's cool inside, I can still buy yarn and trick myself into thinking, yes, we're all knitting, but it was just a little too hot in there. But it didn't stop me completely. I found a new to me yarn, Seven Sisters Arts, and since I went to one of the Seven Sisters colleges, I went to Mount Holyoke, I kind of liked that. I also liked getting something in Portland that was not already in my stash. This is a 75-25 fingering called Meridian. Their fingering is called Meridian, and it has 463 yards. And I just became obsessed with the way these three colors faded, and I thought that would be a gorgeous shawl, or maybe a so faded top. I don't know how, maybe you need more for that, I'm not sure. But I just thought it was so pretty. It all had the same colors, but in different sort of ways and strengths, and I just loved it. And the colors are, have just really summery names too. Like this is Zinnia, and this one's Rhubarb, which is probably my favorite. And then this one, which is Squash Blossom, is probably the farthest from my comfort zone, and I wouldn't have bought it on its own, but I loved the way it played with the other colors. So I have to find a really fun project for that. And then the only other thing I bought there, which is something I love buying when I'm out of town, partly because it doesn't take up too much space and it's a fun little collection. They had some really cool buttons. So this company is called Favor Valley Woodworking out of New Hampshire. And they had these wood buttons. This is Purple Lilac. I assume a purple lilac branch. It's really, really pretty. And then these are even more interesting. These are deer antler. I'm sure no deer were killed specifically to get these. That's such a non-knittery thing. And they're little, so they would probably go on like a baby cardigan, but I thought they were so sweet. And then I thought I was checking out without having done too much damage, but I am a total sucker for sea glass, and they had these sea glass buttons. And this company is called Iris Designs, and it's Iris Designs Jewelry at yahoo.com or Iris Designs Sea Glass at etsy.com. And it's just so sweet and pretty, and I thought that would just make a sweater. So that's it sort of for the knitty content. In terms of sort of other joy, I have one book and 2 TV things to talk about, and then I'll be done. So I finished Chloe Benjamin's The Immortalists. I'm a little behind the game. I think this was a big book last summer, if I'm correct, and tons of people were reading it. You also can follow her on Instagram, and she's a knitter, which is kind of cool. So you get your book and your yarn fix in the same place. It's a really interesting book. I can't say that I absolutely loved it. The premise was a little off-putting or strange for me, and the characters, there was just a lot of sadness, and I kept waiting for sort of someone to it follows four siblings, and I kept waiting for one of the siblings to sort of have an easier life, a more whole, full life. So I think that was a little sad, a little disappointing for me. And also the premise is a little far-fetched, and there are other far-fetched moments in the book that may be pushed against the sort of credibility that fiction needs, for me. But having said that, it's a fascinating book, and it keeps your interest, and not in a page-turner kind of way, but in a gentle way. You really do want to know what is happening with this book, where she's going to take this. And she writes well, so it's a really interesting, good book. Okay, and then the two TV shows, again, I'm behind the curve. I finally signed up for Hulu because we were away and they had it on their TV, and I got hooked on silly shows. But then I remembered that The Handmaid's Tale was on Hulu, and I had read the book many, many years ago when Margaret Atwood wrote it, and I was, as many of us, most of us were, sort of transfixed by her creation of a dystopia that really subjugated women in such a profound and terrifying way. And what the show has done is, in an eerie way, made it incredibly contemporary and relevant, and shown us how some of the really, really bad choices we have been making as a world could lead down this very dark, awful path. And it's scary, and it's brilliantly done, but it's also too close to home in many ways. And then for a much lighter bit of fun on Netflix, there is Father Brown's Mysteries, which is a BBC import, and I'm sure done many years ago, and I'm just discovering it, as we just discover many things now that everything's available on streaming services like Netflix. I love mysteries. I love all things English and Great Britain, and this is the British countryside, and it has a charming priest who's sort of meddlesome and brilliant at solving mysteries, and oh my gosh, it's just a very, very, very fun rabbit hole to go down. And I am somewhere near the end of the third season, and I think there are 6, so it's fun. I would highly recommend it. Okay, that's all I've got for now. Keep knitting and finding joy. Bye.